The Olympic-sized pool at Pacific Crest Academy glistened under the California morning sun when Liam Miller stepped onto the wet deck for the first time. His worn-out sneakers contrasted sharply with the designer gear of the other students, but he didn't seem to notice. His dark eyes scanned every detail of the sports complex with a quiet intensity that made people turn and look. 18 years old, 6'1", with broad shoulders that betrayed years of strokes. Liam wasn't just another freshman. Any experienced coach would recognize the posture, the way his eyes calculated distances and angles in the water. He was a swimmer, and by the way he moved, an extraordinary one. On the other side of the pool, Chase Sterling watched the scene with his arms crossed. 19 years old, team captain for 2 consecutive years, state record holder in the 100-meter freestyle, he commanded that space like a king in his territory. His medals filled an entire wall in the trophy room. His arrogance filled the rest. In his head, it was too simple. Rookies didn't just walk into Pacific Crest and stroll around the pool area like they owned the place, especially rookies who came from public schools in rural Nebraska. Liam had secured a full scholarship based on athletic merit, and that alone was reason enough for Chase to turn up his nose. His arrival had been the talk of the school for weeks. Coach Sullivan, the head coach, wouldn't stop talking about the raw talent coming in. A prodigy, he said, someone who could take Pacific Crest to the national podium. Chase hated when Sullivan used that tone of voice, as if he had finally found the missing piece of the puzzle. As if Chase wasn't enough. Liam stopped at the edge of the pool and crouched down, running his hand through the water's surface. The gesture was almost reverent. He closed his eyes for a second, took a deep breath, and something in his expression softened. Anyone watching from afar could swear he was somewhere else, in another time. Chase decided it was time to establish the ground rules. He approached with his 2 best friends, Brad and Kyle, flanking him like bodyguards. The 3 formed the core of the team, the fastest, the most popular. They stopped a few feet from Liam, casting shadows over him. Look who showed up, the famous Charity. Case. Chase let the words hang in the air like an insult. Liam stood up slowly, wiping his wet hand on his faded shorts. He looked at Chase without rushing, studying the tanned face, the chlorine-bleached hair, the posture of someone who had never had to fight for anything in his life. Their eyes met, and Liam didn't look away. "I'm Liam. Nice to meet you." He extended his hand, a simple, polite gesture that caught Chase completely off guard. No one offered a hand to him. It was always they who received greetings, flattery. Chase looked at the extended hand as if it were a trap. "I didn't ask for your name," he replied, ignoring the handshake. "I asked what you're doing on our deck." Liam lowered his hand without showing any embarrassment. "I came to train. My first session is at 9. "Training here isn't for just anyone," interrupted Brad, a muscular guy with a cruel smile on his lips. "We have standards." "I understand," Liam said calmly. "And what are the necessary standards?" Chase took a step forward, invading Liam's personal space. "First, you need to know your place. I run things here. I've been captain for 2 years. State record holder. You're just another guy who thinks he can show up and shine." Liam didn't back down an inch. His voice came out low, controlled, without a hint of defiance or fear. "I didn't come here to boss anyone around. I came to swim." The simple answer seemed to irritate Chase even more. He expected nervousness, submission, maybe even admiration. What he found was an unshakable calm that made him uncomfortable. "You're going to swim, all right? You're going to swim until you get tired of losing to me." Before Liam could respond, Coach Sullivan's deep voice echoed through the complex. "Liam Miller. Arrived early, I like that." The coach approached with long strides, a man in his 50s, a former Olympic swimmer, his body still athletic despite the grey hair. His gaze went straight to Chase and his posse. "You 3 shouldn't be warming up," Chase forced a smile. "Just welcoming the new guy, coach." "How kind." Sullivan didn't hide the sarcasm. "Now go. I want to see 400-meter sets before the official practice." The 3 walked away, but not before Chase shot one last look at Liam. A look that promised this was far from over. Liam held the gaze until Chase turned his back. "Don't mind them," Sullivan said, placing a hand on Liam's shoulder. "Chase is good, very good actually. But he's scared. Scared of what? That you might be better. Liam didn't answer. He just looked at the pool again, that distant look returning to his eyes. Sullivan noticed the change but didn't comment. There was something about this kid, a depth that went far beyond athletic talent. Did you bring your gear? It's in the locker room. Great, I want to see you in the water in 10 minutes. We'll do a basic assessment. Nothing competitive, I just need to see your technique, your breath hold, your endurance. Liam nodded and headed to the locker rooms. As he walked, he felt the eyes of other students starting to arrive for morning practice. Whispers followed him. The new guy, the scholarship kid. What's so special about him? He ignored it all, used to unsolicited attention. In the quiet locker room, Liam opened his old backpack and pulled out his competition briefs, goggles patched with duct tape and a faded blue cap. He had no imported gear, no famous brands. Around him, other. Swimmers showed off latest generation goggles, premium silicone caps and tech suits that promised to reduce drag in the water. Liam didn't care. Expensive gear didn't win races. Technique did, dedication did, and in that, he knew he owed nothing to anyone. But when he held the goggles, his fingers trembled slightly. Memories invaded his mind like waves he couldn't hold back. He remembered another pool, smaller, simpler. The greenish water of a community center in Cedar Rapids. His father's voice echoing off the peeling walls. Son, the water doesn't care about your pride. It only responds to your technique. He remembered his father's calloused hands adjusting his stroke, correcting his rotation with infinite patience. A man who had never learned to swim properly, who still felt a tightness in his chest when entering deep water, but who had sold the family's only truck to pay for decent lessons for his son, who had worked overtime for months just to buy those goggles Liam now held so carefully. Liam closed his eyes, took 3 deep breaths, a technique he had learned not from his father, but from life, from sleepless nights caring for his sick father, from days of silent grief, from the loneliness of carrying a dream that wasn't originally his. Control. Always control. Don't let emotions guide your movements, in or out of the water. When he returned to the deck, the entire team was present. 20 swimmers, the best young talents in California. Everyone looked at him. Chase was at the end of the pool, stretching exaggeratedly, a show for the audience. He wanted everyone to see who the alpha was. Liam put on his cap without rushing, adjusted his goggles. Sullivan blew the whistle. Liam, lane 4, Chase, lane 5. I want to see 400 meters freestyle. Warm-up pace, no competition. The final sentence was said looking directly at Chase, who just smiled. Sure, coach, just a warm-up. The two climbed onto the starting blocks. Liam felt the familiar grit under his feet. His heart beat slowly, rhythmically. He didn't look at Chase. His eyes were fixed on the black line at the bottom of the pool, the path he knew better than any road. Beside him, Chase adjusted his goggles repeatedly, a nervous tic he didn't admit to having. For the first time in a long time, he felt something uncomfortable in his chest. It wasn't fear of losing, he told himself. It was just curiosity. He wanted to see if the rookie really had talent, or if it was just more of Sullivan's exaggeration. Take your marks. Liam bent down, toes gripping the edge of the block. Set. Muscles tense, body inclined. The world went silent. Whistle. The two bodies cut the water's surface almost simultaneously. Liam entered cleanly, without excessive splash, a perfect entry that minimized resistance. Every muscle worked in harmony, the result of thousands of repetitions, microscopic adjustments, a relentless pursuit of technical perfection. Chase was also technical, but his dive had more brute force than precision. There was power there, but it lacked subtlety. The difference was subtle to lay eyes, but Sullivan noticed immediately, and he knew those tiny details were what separated good swimmers from exceptional ones. Underwater, in the bluish and serene silence, Liam glided like an arrow. His arms remained glued to his body, capitalizing on every millimeter of the initial impulse. He mentally counted the seconds before surfacing, a technique he had refined over years. 5 meters, exactly where he should be. Not too early, wasting momentum. Not too late, losing oxygen. Liam's stroke was mesmerizing. Fluid movements, almost lazy in appearance but incredibly efficient. Each pull captured the maximum amount of water possible. His fingers cut the surface at the perfect angle. His kick was constant, not wasting energy on flashy splashing. Chase swam alongside, and from the first stroke he realized something was wrong. He was trying harder than he should for a simple warm-up. His arms pulled the water with force, trying to maintain the pace, but Liam seemed to be taking a stroll. It didn't make sense. At the first turn Chase tried to accelerate, he pressed his feet against the wall. With extra force, propelled himself with maximum power. He gained half a body-length lead, but in 10 meters, Liam was already by his side again, and he didn't even seem to be trying. The entire team watched in silence. Brad and Kyle exchanged worried glances. The girls from the women's team, who were stretching in the adjacent area, stopped what they were doing to watch. Everyone noticed. This wasn't normal. Halfway through the 400 meters, while his arms rotated in rhythmic and precise movements, Sullivan had a contained smile on his face. He leaned on the edge of the pool, stopwatch in hand, but his eyes didn't need the clock to know what he was seeing. He knew talent when he saw it. He had trained hundreds of athletes over his 3-decade career. He saw prodigies who wasted potential due to a lack of discipline. He saw average athletes who became champions through hard work. But what he was seeing now in Liam was different. It was a rare combination of natural talent and obsessive dedication. It wasn't just raw talent. It was dedication transformed into art. It was suffering converted into beauty. Every movement of Liam's was thought out, calculated, refined by hours and hours of solitary training. There was no wasted energy, no unnecessary exaggeration, no movement that didn't have a clear purpose. Chase began to feel the burning in his shoulders. He was swimming much faster than his normal warm-up pace, trying to create distance from the rookie. But Liam was still there, calm, breathing rhythmically every 3 strokes, eyes focused on the black line below him. At the last turn, with 50 meters to go, Chase made a decision. Screw the warm-up. He was going to show everyone who was boss. He activated his sprint. His arms began to rotate at maximum speed, legs kicking frantically. Water splashed everywhere. Liam saw the movement out of the corner of his eye. He saw Chase accelerate, saw the turbulent water created by his increased speed. For a second, something crossed Liam's face. A decision. He could respond. His muscles were ready, begging to accelerate too. But then he took a deep breath and maintained his pace. Chase touched the wall 3 seconds before Liam. 3 seconds that felt like a crushing victory. He emerged panting, ripping the goggles off his face, looking for the approving smiles of his peers, looking for the look of defeat on the rookie's face. Liam touched the wall gently, as if he had just finished a leisurely dip. He took off his goggles calmly, his breathing almost normal. While Chase leaned on the edge, chest rising and falling rapidly, Liam just stayed there, floating, looking at the crystal-clear water. Sullivan blew the whistle. "Everybody out of the pool! Circle up!" The swimmers gathered around the coach. Chase sat in the front row, still trying to catch his breath. Liam stood at the back, leaning against the wall, hands in the pockets of his wet shorts. "First lesson of the day," Sullivan began, walking among the students. "Can anyone tell me the difference between speed and efficiency?" No one answered. It was one of those rhetorical questions the coach liked to ask. "Speed is getting there first," he continued. "Efficiency is getting there first without destroying yourself in the process. Chase, how long do you think you could maintain that final pace?" Chase wiped the water from his face. "Depends on the distance, coach. Depends on how much you want to die at the end, you mean?" Sullivan shook his head. "You turned a warm-up into a suicide race. Why?" Silence. Chase knew he couldn't tell the truth, that he had done it to show superiority, that he had done it because the new guy made him insecure. "As for Liam," Sullivan turned to him, "you kept the same pace from start to finish, even when you saw your teammate accelerate. Why?" Liam thought for a moment before answering. "Because it wasn't a competition. It was a warm-up." "Exactly." Sullivan's voice echoed through the complex. "Swimming isn't about ego, guys. It's about strategy, endurance, technique. You can have all the speed in the world, but if you don't know when to use it, you'll sink." Chase felt his ears burn. The coach's words were directed at everyone, but he knew they were specifically for him. Beside him, Brad looked at the floor, embarrassed by association. "Very well," Sullivan continued. "Now that we're warmed up, let's train for real. I want 200-meter sets, 8 sets with 2 minutes rest. Focus on technique, not speed." The team dispersed. Liam headed to his lane, but Sullivan held him by the arm. "Can we talk for a minute?" "Sure, coach." They moved away from the group. Sullivan waited until they were far enough before speaking. "You're holding back, kid, I saw it." Liam didn't deny it, he just looked at the pool. "Why didn't you show what you can really do?" Liam took a moment to answer. When he did, his voice was low, almost a whisper. "Because I'm not here to prove anything, coach. I'm here to swim." Sullivan studied the boy's face. There were layers there, untold stories. He had seen hundreds of athletes throughout his career. Some were naturally talented, others were tireless workers. Rarely did he find someone who was both. Even rarer was finding someone with genuine humility to match. "You know you'll have to compete eventually, right? The state championship is in 6 weeks, the national qualifier in 3 months." "I know, and you know Chase won't make things easy for you." Liam finally looked at the coach. His brown eyes had a firmness that didn't match his age. "I don't need him to make it easy. I just need him to let me train in peace." Sullivan smiled. "Good luck with that." As they returned to the team, Liam felt a heavy gaze on him. He turned and found Chase, watching from the other side of the pool. There was no open anger on the captain's face. There was something worse, cold determination. Practice continued for 2 hours, set after set. Sullivan was rigorous, timing every lap, correcting every stroke. Liam absorbed instructions like a sponge. When the coach adjusted his hand entry, he tested it immediately in the next set. When he received feedback on his rotation, he applied the correction without hesitation. Chase watched everything with growing attention. He had to admit, even if only to himself, that Liam was exceptional. The kid's technique was practically perfect. And, worst of all, he was coachable. He accepted criticism without ego, implemented changes without resistance. Everything Chase pretended to be but wasn't. In the locker room after practice, the tension was palpable. Liam showered in a corner alone, while Chase and his group occupied the other end. Conversations were whispered, furtive glances thrown in the rookie's direction. "He's good," Brad admitted in a low voice. "Really good." "It's just the first day," Chase replied, drying his hair aggressively. "Let's see if he handles the pressure when things get serious." Kyle, the quietest of the trio, dared to comment. "But what if he's actually better than you, Chase? What if Sullivan picks him for the individual event at state?" Chase stopped what he was doing. The towel fell from his hands. He had never really considered that possibility. The individual spot was his. It always had been. State champion 2 years in a row. Why would it be different now? "That's not going to happen," he said, but there was a crack in his confidence. Liam finished changing and left the locker room without saying a word to anyone. He carried his old backpack on his shoulders, worn-out sneakers making a muffled sound on the wet floor. As he passed Chase's group, he nodded slightly, a gesture of respect that was completely ignored. When the door closed behind Liam, Brad shook his head. "Dude, he doesn't even seem to care about any of this. It's like he's in another world." "That's exactly what bothers me," Chase muttered. Outside, Liam walked across the school campus. Students passed him, some looking curiously at the new boy. He ignored everything, lost in thought. His mind was back in Nebraska at the green pool, his father's hands correcting his posture. He pulled his old phone from his pocket and opened the photo gallery. There was only one photo saved. A middle-aged man, strong arms, tired but genuine smile, hugging a 15-year-old skinny kid holding a bronze medal. Liam ran his finger across the screen, tracing the outline of his father's face. "One day at a time," he whispered to himself. "One practice at a time." He didn't know that Chase was watching from the second-floor window. He didn't know that the captain was already planning his next move. He didn't know that the real battle was just beginning. The next 2 weeks were a silent battlefield. Chase didn't use direct words. He was subtler than that, more calculating. Years of privilege had taught him that power didn't need to be exercised with shouts or direct confrontations. It was much more effective when it was invisible, systematic, corrosive. His strategy was to undermine Liam bit by bit, make the rookie feel isolated, out of place, unwanted, make him understand, without anyone needing to say it explicitly, that this space wasn't for people like him. It started with small things. Things that could easily be explained as accidents, coincidences, bad luck. Liam would get to the locker room and find his towel missing. Nothing serious, just inconvenient. Annoying enough to break his routine, to add a small pebble in the shoe of his day. He had to dry his face with rough paper towels that scratched his skin. The next day, someone had moved his briefs in the locker. He lost 5 minutes looking, 5 precious minutes that would be missed in warm-up. On the third day, his locker lock was jammed. On the fourth, his shampoo had been replaced with water. During practices, Chase made sure Liam was always last in formations. When Sullivan asked them to split into pairs for technique drills, no one chose Liam. He was always left over, having to work alone or with the coach himself. In the cafeteria, the table where Chase and his group sat was always the fullest, the loudest, the most popular. Liam sat 2 tables away alone, eating his cafeteria tray in silence while laughter echoed behind him. He never looked back. He just ate, cleared his tray, and left. But Liam's silence wasn't submission. It was control. And that made Chase increasingly frustrated. In the 3rd week, Sullivan announced the first competition simulation. Bake, internal test to evaluate the team's performance before the state championship. 200 meters individual medley, the most complete, demanding race requiring absolute mastery of the 4 different swimming strokes: butterfly, backstroke, breaststroke, and freestyle. 50 meters of each, no pause, no rest, no margin for error. The result would determine the priority order for the spots in the state championship happening in 6 weeks. The first place would be guaranteed the spot in the individual category, the most prestigious one, the one that gave maximum visibility, the one national team scouts watched most closely. The other top 5 would have to compete only in the relay, important but not decisive for individual careers. It was all or nothing. Chase didn't sleep well the night before. He lay in the king-size bed of his spacious room, staring at the impeccable white ceiling, mentally replaying every turn, every stroke, every breath. Moonlight entered through the window, creating shadows that seemed to move like phantom swimmers. That spot was his. It had to be. If he lost to the rookie, he would lose everything. Respect, leadership. His entire identity was tied to being the best. Liam, on the other hand, spent the night as he always did. He studied until 10, math and physics, to keep his academic scholarship. Then he called home. His mother's voice on the other end of the line was tired but affectionate. "How was practice today, honey?" "Good, Mom. I'm learning a lot." "And the boys there, are they treating you well?" Liam thought about the missing towels, the isolation, the looks. "They are, Mum. Everything's fine." He would never tell her the truth. She already worried too much. She worked double shifts as a nurse at the county hospital back in Nebraska to make ends meet. He wasn't going to add more weight to her shoulders. "And you, Mom, how are you?" "I'm fine, son, tired but happy. Happy that you're there, living your dream." Liam felt a tightness in his chest. "It's not my dream, Mum. It was his." Silence on the other end. Then her voice came softer, almost a whisper. "I know, Liam, but now it's yours too. He would want you to keep going." When he hung up, Liam stared at the photo on his phone again. His father had discovered the illness 3 years ago. Pancreatic cancer, advanced stage. The doctors gave him 6 months. He lived 8, long enough to see Liam win the regional junior championship, long enough to make him promise he would never give up swimming. And Liam hadn't given up. Every stroke was for him. Every practice was in his memory. But he also carried the guilt of being here in California at an elite school while his mother worked to exhaustion. The guilt of having a dream when so many back home had no choice. On the day of the simulation, the atmosphere was tense. The entire team gathered on the deck at 7 in the morning. Sullivan had invited some alumni who were now coaches at other schools to serve as judges, to give legitimacy to the test, make it feel real. Liam arrived 20 minutes early and went through his usual ritual. Gentle stretching, breathing exercises, visualization. He visualized every stage of the race, saw himself diving, saw every butterfly stroke, saw the perfect turns. Chase arrived with his group, music loud on his phone, trying to look relaxed, but his hands trembled slightly when adjusting his goggles. The lanes were drawn. Liam got lane 3, Chase lane 5. 6 swimmers would compete at the same time. The others would watch and get their chance later. Sullivan gathered everyone before the start. This is a simulation, but I want you to treat it as if it were the Olympic final. Give it your all. Show what you're capable of. The swimmers stepped up onto the blocks. Liam felt the grit under his feet, took 3 deep breaths, emptied his mind of everything except the water in front of him. Take your marks. Bodies bent. Set. The world slowed down. Whistle. 6 bodies cut the water. The first leg was butterfly. 50 meters of the most demanding stroke, draining energy like no other. Chase went out too strong, arms hitting the water with excessive force. He wanted to open a lead right away. Liam swam differently. His butterfly style was fluid, almost elegant. His arms emerged together in a smooth arc, entering the water without unnecessary splash. His body undulated like a dolphin, using every core movement to propel the swim. At the first turn, Chase had a half-body lead, but he was already feeling the lactic acid in his shoulders. He had burned too much energy trying to impress. The second leg was backstroke. Liam turned and immediately found his rhythm. His arms rotated with mechanical precision, pulling the water back in perfect movements. His eyes were fixed on the flags above, using them as a guide. Chase began to lose ground. His backstroke was good but not exceptional, and the fatigue from the butterfly was taking its toll. Liam closed the gap to a quarter of a body length. At the third turn, for the breaststroke, the crowd watching was in absolute silence. Even Brad and Kyle stopped cheering. Everyone saw what was happening, the shift in momentum. Liam swam breaststroke with impeccable technique. The long pull, knees closing at the exact moment, head emerging at the right time for the breath. Every movement was economical, efficient. He caught Chase halfway through the 50 meters of breaststroke. Chase felt Liam beside him and panicked. He accelerated his pull too much, lost technique, created unnecessary drag. That was when Liam passed him. The last leg was freestyle, crawl, the fastest stroke, where Liam was a prodigy. He turned for the freestyle with a half-body lead and simply flew. His strokes were a symphony of power and technique. The water seemed to part for him. His feet kicked in perfect rhythm, creating propulsion without waste. Chase gave everything he had. His arms spun frantically, trying to catch Liam, but it was useless. With every stroke, the distance increased. Liam touched the wall a full body length ahead, 2 minutes and 8 seconds, a time that would put any junior swimmer on the podium of national competitions. He emerged and immediately looked at the electronic scoreboard. When he saw his time, he didn't celebrate. He just nodded, satisfied. There was room for improvement. There always was. Chase touched 3 seconds later, 2 minutes and 11. An excellent time. Any other day it would have been the best of practice, but not today, not against Liam. He leaned on the edge, chest heaving in spasms. It wasn't just physical fatigue. It was the bitter realization that he had met someone better, and worse, someone who didn't need to put others down to feel big. Sullivan blew the whistle. Liam Miller, first place. Congratulations, son. You earned the individual spot. Applause echoed through the complex. It wasn't enthusiastic. Most of it was polite, obligatory. But some was genuine. Some of the female swimmers had been rooting for Liam from the start, tired of Chase's arrogance. Liam got out of the pool and extended his hand to Chase, who was still in the water. Good race. Chase looked at the extended hand. Every cell in his body screamed to ignore it, but there were people watching, visiting coaches. Sullivan with that penetrating look. He shook Liam's hand briefly, without strength. Yeah, he muttered. Good race. But when Liam turned away, Chase whispered low enough for only him to hear. "This isn't over," Liam heard, stopped for a fraction of a second but didn't turn around, just kept walking to the locker room. Later, when everyone had gone, Sullivan found Liam sitting alone in the bleachers, looking at the empty pool. "Can I sit?" Liam nodded yes. Sullivan sat beside him, following the boy's gaze to the calm water. "You swam well today. Better than well, it was exceptional." "Thanks, coach. But you don't look happy." Liam took a while to answer. When he did, his voice was heavy with something Sullivan couldn't identify. "Happiness feels wrong when it comes at someone else's expense." Sullivan frowned. "Liam, this is sports. There will always be a winner and a loser. It's not personal." "For me it is," whispered Liam. "Everything is personal when you swim carrying someone else's dream on your back." Sullivan didn't press Liam to explain his last sentence. He recognized pain when he saw it. He knew the weight some athletes carried, stories buried deep that only surfaced in moments of vulnerability. Years of experience taught him that sometimes silence was more important than words. He just placed a hand on the boy's shoulder and stayed there, in a supportive presence that said more than any advice. The sun began to set, painting the pool in golden and orange hues. Shadows lengthened across the wet deck. It was that magical time of day when everything seemed softer, more honest, and it was in this golden light that Liam finally began to speak. "My dad taught me to swim," said Liam suddenly, voice low but firm. He never learned properly. He was afraid of deep water after almost drowning as a kid in a river near the farm where he grew up. The current dragged him, and he spent minutes fighting to breathe. Since then, water was always an enemy to him. But he wanted me to learn. Sullivan listened without interrupting. He saved for 2 years to put me in the rec center lessons back in Cedar Rapids. He worked as a mechanic in a small garage on the outskirts of town, earned little, way too little to support a family. The money barely covered the basics, food, rent, utilities. But he always found a way. Cut spending on everything possible, stopped buying beer on weekends, something he loved, started taking a lunchbox to work instead of eating at the diner, mended his own clothes instead of buying new ones, all so there would be money, left for his son's swimming lessons. And he never missed a payment, not even when he had to choose between paying for my lesson and fixing his own truck that had broken down. Liam smiled sadly, eyes shining with held-back tears. He rode a bike to work. 10 miles every day, early in the morning, in the dark, pedaling on gravel roads, and coming back at night exhausted, hands dirty with grease, back aching from bending over engines. And when I complained about practice, when I said I was tired or wanted to quit, he reminded me how much he had pedaled that day just to give me that chance. "Your father sounds like an incredible man." He was. Liam wiped his eyes quickly. "When they discovered the cancer, he made me promise I'd keep swimming. Said he wanted to see me in the Olympics someday. I promised, and now I'm here living his dream while my mom works double shifts to make up for his absence." Sullivan took a deep breath. "Now I understand. You don't swim to win. You swim because you promised." Liam nodded. "And every time I win, I feel like I'm taking that from someone who might be swimming just for love, like it should be, pure." Sullivan stayed quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke, choosing his words carefully. "Liam, can I tell you something? When I swam professionally, I had a teammate who thought just like you. He swam for his sick mother, carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. Do you know what happened to him?" Liam looked at the coach. "He quit because the weight was too great. He turned swimming into an obligation, a debt. And when you do that, eventually your body rejects it. You burn up inside." "But I promised." "And you can honor the promise by swimming with joy, not guilt." Sullivan stood up. "Your father didn't want you to suffer. He wanted you to fly. Think about that." As Sullivan walked away, Liam was left alone with his thoughts. The pool reflected the setting sun, creating dancing patterns on the water. He thought about what the coach had said. Joy. When was the last time he felt pure joy while swimming? On the other side of campus, Chase was in his room, lying on his bed staring at the ceiling. His phone had dozens of unread messages from Brad and Kyle. He didn't have the energy to reply. The defeat weighed like a stone in his chest. He had grown up being the best, son of a successful businessman and a former professional swimmer. Everything he needed had always been available. The best private coaches, imported gear, top-notch supplements. And yet, he lost to a public school kid who had goggles patched with duct tape. For the first time in his life, Chase questioned if effort was enough, or if innate talent simply won in the end. The idea terrified him. A knock on the door snapped him out of his thoughts. His mother entered, still wearing the athletic gear from when she was an athlete. She had stopped competing 20 years ago, but never stopped training. Discipline, she always said, is for life. "I heard you lost the simulation today," she said, sitting on the edge of the bed. Chase turned to the wall. "I don't want to talk about it." "All right. Let's talk about pride then." He turned around, confused. "What?" "Pride, Chase. That thing that stops you from recognizing when someone is better than you." She crossed her arms. Watch the recording Coach Sullivan sent. I saw every second of the race." "So what? Did you come here to rub it in my face that I lost?" "I came here to tell you that you swam like a desperate amateur." She didn't soften the words. "You attacked the butterfly as if you were in a brawl. You lost technique in the breaststroke because you panicked, and in the freestyle, you were already done because you wasted energy being emotional." Chase felt anger rise in his throat. "Then tell me, Mom, what should I have done differently?" "You should have swum your own race, not his." She stood up. "Liam Miller didn't defeat you, Chase. You defeated yourself by making the competition personal. Swimming is about you and the water, not about you and who's in the lane next to you." "Easy to say when you were the best." "I was never the best." Her voice became softer. "There was always someone faster, stronger, more talented. The difference is I learned to respect that and use it to improve, not to become bitter." She left the room, leaving Chase alone with words that hurt because they were true. In the following days, something began to change at Pacific Crest Academy. Liam continued training alone, but now some people started greeting him. One of the swimmers, Maya, the state backstroke champion, sat next to him in the cafeteria. "Can I sit here?" Liam looked up from his plate, surprised. "Sure." She started eating, and the two sat in silence for a while. Then she spoke. "I thought what you did in the simulation was amazing. I haven't seen someone swim like that since famous U.S. swimmer reference, e.g. Michael Phelps, Caleb Dressel, visited our school." Liam smiled slightly. "Thanks. You swim really well too. I saw your backstroke yesterday. Perfect technique." Maya blushed. "Years of training and a lot of patience with the egos of certain boys." She looked at Chase's table. "Don't let him get to you. Deep down, he's insecure. He just doesn't know how to deal with it." "Everyone is insecure on some level," said Liam. "The difference is what we do with the insecurity." "Pool philosophy," she laughed. "I like it." From that day on, Liam didn't eat alone anymore. Maya brought other people. Swimmers who were tired of the toxicity of Chase's group. People who wanted to train in peace, improve without needing to put others down. Chase watched from afar. He saw his social empire crumbling little by little. Brad and Kyle were still loyal, but even they seemed questioning now. And the worst part was that Liam wasn't doing anything to cause this. He just existed, was authentic, and that naturally attracted people. A week before the state championship, Sullivan called Liam and Chase for a meeting in his office. The two entered without looking at each other, sat in separate chairs. "You two are going to represent our school at state," began Sullivan. "Liam in the individual category, Chase in the 4x100 relay. I need you to work together." "Work together?" Chase almost laughed. "How do you expect that to work?" "I expect you to be professionals." Sullivan looked at both of them. "A team doesn't work with internal rivalry. It works with mutual respect." Liam was the first to speak. "I respect Chase. I always have. He's an excellent swimmer." Chase felt a strange tightness in his chest, anger mixed with something he couldn't identify. Maybe shame, maybe remorse. He looked at Liam for the first time in days. He started. But the word stuck. "Sorry," he murmured finally. "I wasn't fair to you." Liam nodded. "It's okay." "No, it's not." Chase forced himself to continue. "I treated you badly because I was scared. Scared of not being good enough, of losing my identity." His voice cracked slightly. "Of disappointing the people who believe in me." Liam understood perfectly, because he carried the same fear, just for different reasons. "I'm scared too," he admitted. "Scared of not being worthy of the opportunity I got, of being here while more deserving people were left behind." Sullivan observed the two boys finally being honest with each other. "This is the start," he said. "Fear is normal. What we do with it defines us." The two left the office together. In the hallway, Chase stopped. "Want to train with me tomorrow morning? Before official hours. I can show you some secrets about the state pool. I've competed there twice." Liam smiled. "Sure, I'd love that." As they walked away, neither noticed Sullivan at the window, watching with a satisfied smile. He had trained hundreds of athletes, but moments like that when rivals became allies were rare and precious. The week before the state championship passed in a blur of intense training, diet adjustments, and mental preparation. Liam and Chase began training together in the mornings before the rest of the team arrived. What started as an uncomfortable truce evolved into something resembling friendship. Chase discovered that Liam was funny when he relaxed. He had a dry sense of humor, smart observations about other swimmers, perfect impressions of Sullivan's stern voice. Liam discovered that Chase, when he wasn't trying to prove anything, was generous with knowledge. He knew every coach on the circuit, every pool, every strategy. They swam side by side, no longer as competitors, but as partners pushing each other to improve. When Liam lost rhythm on the turn, Chase pointed it out. When Chase wasted energy on breathing, Liam suggested adjustments. The change didn't go unnoticed. Brad and Kyle watched confused. Maya smiled, proud. Sullivan just nodded approvingly. The whole team began to feel the difference. Practices became less tense, more collaborative. Results improved. But 4 days before the championship, everything changed in a way Liam could never have predicted. Liam was in the locker room when his phone rang. It was his mother. He answered, smiling, expecting the usual chat about her day, hospital gossip, the neighbor who always asked about him. But the smile died when he heard her voice on the other end. She was crying. Not loud, dramatic crying, but that contained, muffled cry of someone trying to be strong but unable to hold it anymore. "Mum, what happened? Are you okay? Are you hurt?" Liam's heart raced. "I'm fine, son. It's not me. It's the house." Her voice trembled. "The house? What about the house?" There was a plumbing problem. A pipe burst in the living room wall. The water seeped in and the whole wall collapsed. "Liam, it all came down, the plaster, the bricks. There's a huge hole in the house." She sobbed again. "I had to call an emergency contractor because it was raining and water was getting in. He said he needs to rebuild the whole wall, replace the plumbing, replaster, paint. It's $3,000, Liam. I don't have it. I've already tapped into everything I could. I went to the bank. They denied a loan because I already have debt from your father's hospital bills. I borrowed money from Joanna at work. She gave me $2,000, but I'm still short. $1,000, and the contractor said without the full money he won't start the work." Liam felt the world spin around him. $1,000. He had exactly $2,500 in his account. Savings from an entire year of a modest stipend the school gave to cover basic expenses. Money he had saved penny by penny, skipping meals in the cafeteria to save, never buying anything that wasn't absolutely essential, always thinking that someday he might have an emergency. And now the emergency was here. "Mom, I have it. I'll transfer it now." "No, son. That money is yours for your things, in case you need something there." "Mom, stop. Don't argue with me. I'm transferring it." "But Liam." "No buts. It's just money. We'll figure it out." He hung up and immediately made the transfer. He sent $2,500 to be safe. He had almost nothing left, barely enough to get through the month. He would have to ask for more hours in the school monitoring program, maybe get a weekend job. The problem was something else. He discovered that morning that his training sneakers had finally ripped apart. The sole was detaching. He needed new sneakers urgently. Good, technical ones proper for intensive dryland training, and good shoes cost at least $150. Liam looked at his zero balance. It wasn't enough. He could train barefoot for a few more days, maybe, or use the ripped shoes and risk a sprain. Right now, a week before the most important championship of his life, he didn't tell anyone. He arrived at practice that day wearing the ripped sneakers, tied with an extra shoelace to hold the sole. He hoped no one would notice. Chase noticed immediately. "Dude, what happened to your shoes?" Just getting old, need to buy new ones." "Old is an understatement. Those are begging for retirement. When are you going to replace them?" Liam shrugged, trying to look casual. "After the championship, they'll hold up for now." Lie. Chase knew how to recognize a lie. He had spent his whole life lying about his own emotional problems, but he didn't press. He just watched Liam train in those destroyed shoes, noticed how he stepped carefully, how he avoided sudden movements. After practice, Chase went to the mall alone. He walked into the sports store where he always bought his gear. He knew the salesman, a former swimmer named Rod. "I need shoes, size 11, the best you have for swim dryland training." Rod showed 3 options. Chase chose the most expensive one, $200. Cushioning technology, breathable material, durability guaranteed. "Wrap it as a gift." "Is it for you?" "No, it's for a friend." The next day, Chase arrived early at practice. He put the box in Liam's locker with a simple note. "Every athlete deserves decent gear. Don't return it. Don't thank me. Just accept it." When Liam opened the locker and saw the box, he stood still for a long minute. Read the note 3 times. Felt his eyes sting. No one had ever done something like this for him, not since his dad was alive. He found Chase on the deck, stretching, sat beside him without saying anything. The two stayed in silence for a while. "Thank you," Liam murmured finally. "I said not to thank me." "I know, but thanks anyway." Chase looked at him. "It's okay to need help, man. Doesn't make you less than anyone." Liam took a deep breath. "My mom, she needs to fix the house. I sent my money, didn't have enough left for shoes." Chase nodded. "Got it. Want to talk about it?" "Not really." Liam smiled sadly. "But it's good to know someone cares." "You taught me there's room for everyone to be good," said Chase. "That you don't need to knock others down to rise. That changed my mindset, man, so yeah, I care." The two trained together that day with a connection that went beyond technique and strategy. It was genuine respect, mutual admiration, the beginning of a true friendship. 3 days before the championship, Sullivan called Liam for a private chat. They sat in the empty bleachers looking at the pool that had become the boys' second home. "I received an interesting call today," began Sullivan, "from the junior national team coach. He's going to be at the championship, specifically to see you swim." Liam processed the information. Junior national team meant training at the Olympic Training Center. It meant a possible path to the Olympics. It meant realizing his father's dream, but it also meant leaving his mother alone in Nebraska for even longer. "That's amazing, Coach. You don't sound like you think it's amazing." Liam stayed quiet for a moment. "If I get selected, I'll have to train out of state, maybe Colorado. My mom will be alone. Your mom wouldn't want you to waste this chance because of her." "I know." Liam ran a hand through his hair. "But it's not just about what she wants. It's about what's right. She's already sacrificed so much. When is it my turn to sacrifice something?" Sullivan put a hand on his shoulder. "Liam, you're already sacrificing. Every day you wake up at 5 a.m. Every time you train until you can't stand. Every moment you choose discipline over fun. That is sacrifice. Don't punish yourself for succeeding." "But what if I don't deserve it? And what if you do deserve it and never find out because you were afraid to try?" The words stayed with Liam. That night, he called his mother again, told her about the national team coach, about the possibility, about his fears. She listened to everything in silence. When he finished, she said something he would never forget. "Liam, your father made me promise one thing before he left. He made me promise I would never let you give up on your dreams. out of obligation or guilt, that I would push you forward, even when you wanted to come back to take care of me. Mom, I'm fine, son. I'm working. I have friends. I have my life. You don't need to save me. You need to fly. And I'll be here, cheering, always. When he hung up, Liam cried for the first time since arriving in California. Cried for the loss of his father. Cried for his mother's loneliness. Cried for the pressure. Cried for the relief of having permission to move forward. The night before the championship, the whole team gathered for a dinner at the school. Sullivan gave a speech about teamwork and pride. But the most memorable moment came when Chase asked to speak. I want to say something. He looked directly at Liam. When this guy arrived here, I saw him as a threat, treated him like an enemy. But he showed me that true strength doesn't come from defeating others. It comes from lifting each other up. Tomorrow I'm going to give my all in the relay, and I'm going to root for Liam to destroy the individual competition, because when he wins, we all win. The entire team applauded. Liam felt his chest tight with emotion. He had arrived in California alone, isolated, carrying the weight of the world. Now he had a sports family, he had friends, he had support. That night, before sleeping, Liam looked at his father's photo on his phone one more time. Tomorrow is for you, Dad. And it's for me too. For the first time, it's being for me too. He fell asleep peaceful, ready for the biggest challenge of his life. The aquatic center was packed when the Pacific Crest Academy bus arrived at 8 in the morning. Hundreds of swimmers from all over the state were warming up. In the auxiliary pools, coaches checked stopwatches for the 10th time. Parents occupied the bleachers with colorful banners and signs, cameras already positioned to capture every second. The air smelled of chlorine mixed with sunscreen, expectation mixed with palpable nervousness. Liam stepped off the bus with his backpack on his shoulders, feeling the weight not just of the bag, but of everything that day signified. The new sneakers Chase had given him stepped firmly on the hot asphalt, every step a reminder of the friendship that had been born from rivalry. He looked at the imposing sports complex, flags of all clubs and schools waving in the morning wind, the giant electronic board showing the day's detailed schedule. His heart beat hard against his ribs, but it wasn't the irregular beat of fear. It was the rhythmic pulse of excitement, of preparation, of the certainty that he was exactly where he should be. Chase slapped him on the shoulder. Ready to make history? Liam smiled. Let's see. In the locker rooms, while everyone changed, Sullivan gathered the team. Today isn't about winning or losing. It's about giving your best, about honoring the training, about representing our school with dignity. He looked at each swimmer individually. I'm already proud. The result is a consequence. The first race of the day was the men's 4x100 freestyle relay. Chase would swim the anchor leg. When his turn came, Pacific Crest was in third place, 2 seconds behind the leader. Chase dived and simply flew. His old anger had been transformed into controlled fire. He caught the second place in the first 25 meters, the first in the 50, touched the wall with a body and a half lid. Gold for Pacific Crest Academy. The entire team exploded in celebration. Liam was the first to hug Chase when he got out of the pool. You were amazing, perfect. Chase, still panting, smiled. We did this, together. But Liam's euphoria was interrupted when he heard his name over the sound system. Liam Miller, 200 meters individual medley, heat 4. Report to the starting blocks in 5 minutes. His stomach tied in a knot. It was time. He went to the ready room. 7 other swimmers were waiting, all looking at each other, sizing up the competition. Liam recognized some names: regional champions, record holders, people who had trained at excellence centers for years. And then he saw him. In the VIP stands, a man in his 50s, gray hair, USA swimming shirt, the junior national team coach. He was holding a clipboard, eyes attentive. Liam took 3 deep breaths, controlled the tremor in his hands, thought of his dad, thought of his mom, thought of everything he had sacrificed to get there. The swimmers stepped up onto the blocks. Liam felt the familiar grit under his feet. The noise of the crowd disappeared. All that existed was him and the water in front of him. Take your marks. Set. Whistle. Liam cut the water like a blade. The first leg butterfly was his weakest. He swam with impeccable technique, saving energy, emerged in 5th place, exactly where he planned. At the turn for backstroke, he began to recover ground. His arms rotated with mechanical precision, every pull calculated, every breath at the right moment. 4th place, 3rd place. The turn for breaststroke was perfect. He propelled with force, glided underwater for meters. When he emerged, he was in 2nd, just half a body behind the leader, a kid from San Diego with an impressive record. And then came the freestyle, the stroke where Liam was practically unbeatable. He turned for the freestyle and simply disappeared from the 2nd place's visual field. His strokes were a work of art, controlled power, perfect technique, devastating speed. With 25 meters to the finish, Liam was a whole body length ahead. The crowd began to scream. He could vaguely hear Chase's voice shouting his name, could hear Maya and the whole Pacific Crest team. 10 meters, 5 meters. He touched the wall and immediately looked at the scoreboard. 1st place, 1:58, new state junior record. For a second, Liam stood still in the water, processing. Then the realization hit. He had done it, not only qualified, he had broken the record. He got out of the pool and was embraced by Sullivan. The coach had tears in his eyes. "I knew it. From the first day, I knew you were special." "Thanks, coach, for believing." The party in the locker rooms was intense. Chase lifted Liam on his shoulders. The whole team chanted the school song. Maya kissed his cheek, making him blush. It was everything he had dreamed of and more. But then Sullivan entered the locker room, face serious. "Liam, there's someone who wants to talk to you." The national team coach was waiting outside. He extended his hand. "Mark Davis, junior national team coach." Liam shook his hand, trying not to shake. "I need to be direct with you, Liam. What I saw today was impressive. Olympic-level technique. A time that would put you on the podium of international junior competitions." He paused. "I want you in the National Team Development Program." Liam felt the world stop. "That means..." "It means full-time training at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, specialized coaches, preparation for the Junior Pan Pacs, and, if all goes well, Olympic trials in 2 years." It was everything. Everything his father had dreamed. Everything Liam had worked to achieve. But then Mark continued. "But there's a catch. The program demands total dedication. You'd have to move to the dorms at the training center, train 6 days a week, 6 hours a day, schooling online or at the local partnership school, only go home on holidays." Liam felt his chest tighten. Colorado, far from his mom, far from everything he knew, for 2 whole years. "I need to think," Mark nodded. "Of course, but I need an answer by the end of the month. It's an opportunity that doesn't come twice." When Mark left, Liam sat alone in the bleachers, looked at the pool where he had just made history. He should be in ecstasy, but all he felt was conflict. Chase found him there. "Can I sit?" Liam nodded yes. "Heard about the team offer. Congrats, man, that's huge." "Yeah." Liam didn't sound convinced. "But you're hesitating." "My mom. She was already alone when my dad died. Now I'm going to abandon her too." Chase stayed quiet for a moment. Then he told something he had never told anyone. "My mom was a professional, swimmer, Pan Am medalist, but she quit her career when she got pregnant with me, abandoned the Olympic dream to be a full-time mom." Liam looked at him, surprised. "I grew up thinking she regretted it, that I had stolen her future, until I asked one day. She said she wouldn't trade being my mom for all the medals in the world, but that if I had the chance she didn't have and didn't take it, she would never forgive me." "That's different." "Is it?" "Because your mom didn't give up on anything. She gave you everything, and now she's giving you the biggest thing a mother can give, permission to follow your own path." Liam felt tears in his eyes. "What if I fail? And what if you don't try and spend the rest of your life wondering?" Chase put a hand on his shoulder. "Fear of failure is normal, but letting fear decide for you, that's the real failure." That night, Liam called his mother, told her about the record, about the offer, about his fears. She listened to everything. Then she said, voice firm, "Liam, your father didn't die so you would live in his shadow. He died hoping you would shine. If you don't take this spot, you're not protecting anyone. You're wasting his sacrifice. And mine. But Mom, 2 years away. Son, I lived my whole life waiting for you to realize dreams. 2 more years won't change anything. I'll be fine. You need to be fine too." When he hung up, Liam knew his decision. On Sunday, before returning to the school, Liam met Mark Davis at the hotel. "I accept. I want to be part of the team." Mark smiled. "You won't regret it, kid. We're going to make you an Olympic champion." On the trip back, Liam sat next to Chase. The whole team was euphoric, singing, celebrating the medals. But the two were quiet, looking out the window. "I'm gonna miss you," said Chase suddenly. Liam looked at him surprised. "We can visit each other. Colorado isn't that far." "I know, but it won't be the same, training without you." Chase smiled sadly. "You made me want to be better, not just in swimming, in everything." "You too." Liam extended his hand. "Friends?" Chase squeezed his hand. "Brothers." 2 weeks later, Liam was packing his bags in the Pacific Crest dorm. His things fit into 2 duffel bags. It wasn't much, but it was everything he needed. The whole team gathered to say goodbye. Maya cried. Brad and Kyle hugged him. Sullivan gave him an old medal from when he was an athlete himself. "For luck," the coach said. Chase was the last. He handed an envelope to Liam. "Only open when you're alone." Liam nodded. In the cab on the way to the bus station, Liam opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter. "Liam, when you arrived here, I saw you as an enemy. You showed me that we, can be better together than apart. You taught me that true strength doesn't come from defeating others, but from lifting each other up. I'm going to keep training. I'm going to get better. And one day, when we meet in an Olympic pool, I want it to be the best race the world has ever seen. Not because we're rivals, but because we're brothers. Go out there and make the dream happen. For your dad, for your mom, but mostly for you." Your pool brother, Chase. Liam read the letter 3 times, stored it carefully in his backpack along with his father's photo. When the bus left the station heading towards the airport for his flight to Colorado, Liam looked out the window. The California landscape disappeared on the horizon, a place that had given him friends, that had given him purpose, that had transformed a scared kid into a confident athlete. He thought about everything that had happened, the nervous arrival, the confrontation with Chase, the initial loneliness, the transformation, the friendship, the record, the choice. For the first time since his father had passed, Liam didn't feel like he was swimming carrying someone else's weight. He was swimming for their dream, father and son, mother and son, but also for his own dream. And that made all the difference. End of story. If Liam's journey touched your heart, know that stories of overcoming obstacles, true friendship, and achieving dreams are part of what we believe in here. Liam taught us that true victory lies not in defeating others, but in becoming the best version of ourselves. That friends can appear where we least expect them, and that honoring those we love means moving forward, not standing still. If you were moved by this story, leave a like so more people can get to know Liam and Chase. Subscribe to the channel to follow more narratives that celebrate the best of human nature. And in the comments, tell us, have you ever had a rival who became a friend? What was the most important lesson this story left for you? Until the next story. And remember, the water doesn't lie. It always reveals who you really are.